All right, next up. Right, next up, Cabin Fever, one of my all-time favorite horror movies ever. I absolutely love Cabin Fever. I've seen it countless times. Eli, say what you will about Eli Roth. Cabin Fever, Hostel, and Hostel 2 are some of my favorite movies of all time. I love Cabin Fever. It's next up, Eli Roth's Green Inferno. I loved this movie as well. I am an unapologetic Eli Roth fanboy. I loved the Green Inferno. Let me know what you guys think of the Green Inferno. Next up, the Best Buy exclusive 4K edition of The Shining. This thing looked amazing in 4K. Definitely check out this 4K restoration. The Steelbook is out of print now, but you can still find the standard edition. Next up, Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse. I loved The Lighthouse. Such a good movie. Next up, Mandy, the infamous Mandy, the Nicolas Cage freak-out classic. Definitely watch Mandy. This movie is so good. Next up, the insane movie from, I almost forgot his name, Darren Aronofsky. This movie is, good Lord, this movie is stressful. It's, of course, really metaphorical. It's not for everyone, super experimental, but I absolutely love this insane movie. Mother. Another insane and badass movie from Lars von Trier, or I'm sorry, Gaspar Noé. Climax. I love Gaspar Noé's movie, Irreversible, I Stand Alone. He's done amazing stuff, and Climax is truly an experience. I assure you, you've never seen anything like Climax. Watch this movie. It's so good. Next up, my box set of Battle Royale 1 and 2, where a bunch of kids are put together to kill each other. I don't know what came first, the origins of, like, I don't know if these were books or whatever, but what is it called? The Catching Fire, the Jennifer Lawrence movies. I forget what they're called, but they completely ripped off Battle Royale. It's just kind of insane. It's like the same story. What the hell is the Jennifer Lawrence movie where they all kill each other? I can't remember the name of the movie, but Battle Royale is the original. That's bugging the shit out of me. Jennifer Lawrence movie where all the kids kill each other.
The Hunger Games.
That's what it's called, The Hunger Games. I had to look it up. Yeah, The Hunger Games completely ripped off Battle Royale. I don't know what's up with that. Next up, the DVD triple feature of the Feast movies. These movies, nobody ever talks about the Feast movies. There used to be a show on HBO called something Greenlight Project or something, where they took directors and kind of financed their movie. It was Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. One of those movies featured on that show was Feast. These movies are insane and they're fantastic. It's a series of 3 movies about these alien creatures, but they're unpredictable. The gore is insane. They get kind of more and more campy as they go on from 1 to 3. The first ones, they all have a lot of humor to them. They get a little more satirical as they go on. Check out the Feast movies. You guys will not regret watching those. They're fantastic. Next up, from Joe Bigos, VFW. He also did a fantastic movie called Bliss, but this movie is just an insane, gory movie about these old guys who get together at a bar, and it's kind of a bar invasion movie where all these people are trying to get into this bar because this kid brought something into the bar with them, and there's a bunch of people chasing him, so they're basically defending their drinking hole, and it's just their watering hole. It's a phenomenal movie. If you haven't seen VFW, check it out. This cast is amazing. Got William Sadler, Tom Williamson, Travis Hammer, George Wendt, Fred Williamson. It's great. Check out VFW. Next up, another Nick Cage classic, The Color Out of Space, based on an H.P. Lovecraft story. This movie is amazing. The classic horror kind of comedy satire, Cabin in the Woods in 4K. Next up, Jaws in 4K. This movie looks incredible in 4K. It's another Steelbook there. Next up, the 3-disc Blue Underground limited edition of Zombie, which also has a 4K restoration. I heard it just looks incredible. The 3-disc edition of Maniac. This movie it's incredible too. This is also from Blue Underground. The love it or hate it modern classic. In my opinion, I'm going to say it. I think this is a cult classic in the making. Kevin Smith's Tusk. I love this movie. Next up, Lars von Trier's bleak, Jesus, depressing Antichrist. This was the first in his Depression trilogy. Next came Melancholia and then Nymphomaniac. Has an infamous scene with Willem Dafoe's member in the back half of the movie. Check out Lars von Trier's Antichrist. Next up, Critters Attack. You know, I actually really liked the new installment in the Critters movie. I found it to be a lot of fun. Next up, Krampus, the Christmas horror movie from Mike Doherty. This was his follow-up to Trick or Treat. I actually like this movie. It's not as good as Trick or Treat, but it's a good, fun little movie to watch around Christmas time. Next up, the 4K edition of Dr. Sleep. Another one. I love this movie. Mike Flanagan did a great job with this movie. A little long, but it's good. Another movie that I defend and I still like. I think they ruined the big twist in the trailer, but the remake of Pet Sematary. I absolutely love this movie. I realize a lot of people probably didn't even give it a chance because it is the remake, but I mean, I don't know. I enjoy Pet Sematary 2 more than I do the first one anyway. I don't know. Oh shit. That's the original. Here's the remake. So yeah, there's the original Pet Sematary, and here is the remake. I loved this movie. John Lithgow's fantastic in that movie. Next up, the Alien 4K edition. What can you say about Alien that hasn't already been said? I love it. 4K Gremlins, classic. The 4K edition of Evil Dead 2 and the 4K edition of Evil Dead, and just announced the Army of Darkness 4K will be coming out next year from Scream Factory, so that's awesome. The Witch in 4K. This is a phenomenal movie from the director of The Lighthouse. His movies aren't for everyone, obviously, but this movie is fantastic. American Psycho. I'm actually wearing the American Psycho shirt here from Fright Rags. Yeah, American Psycho. Love it. Too many movies, guys. All right. Next up, we're doing the Vestron Collector Series. I have every release in the Vestron Collector Series, so here they are right here. Number 1, Chopping Mall. Fantastic movie. If you haven't seen Chopping Mall, do yourself a favor. It's fantastic. Barbara Crampton is amazing in it, as well as the rest of the cast. This is just a horror classic. Blood Diner, another horror staple. This movie is so much fun. Waxwork and Waxwork 2, another classic. These restorations look really good too. They all have really nice slip covers, ton of special features. They've recently lowered the prices. Pete! They've recently lowered the prices with Shivers and Little Monsters, so definitely check out those releases. There's Waxwork 1 and 2. Return of the Living Dead 3. I absolutely love Return of the Living Dead 3. A little bit of a departure as compared to the other two, but just so much fun. I love Return of the Living Dead 3. Let me know if there's any Return of the Living Dead 3 fans out there. I know this movie gets its share of, people not liking it a whole lot. I love it. I think it's great. Chud 2, The Lair of the White Worm. I actually haven't watched this yet. I need to watch this movie. I've heard good things. Parents. I love this movie. This is a guy who's done a lot of weird, kind of quirky movies. He also did a movie called My Boyfriend's Back in the 90s about kind of a comedy, kind of the same similar surreal tone. Actually has a couple of the same cast members. My Boyfriend's Back is great, but this stars Randy Quaid and I forget her name, the other gal. They play these insane parents and this kid who just is scared of his own parents. This movie is insane. Definitely check out this one. The classic, The Gate. I love this movie so much, about the kids who open up a portal basically to hell in their backyard. Super fun. 80s. Steven Dorff's in it, and as he's just a kid. The Wishmaster Collection 4 film set. These movies are great. Some of them are hit or miss, but they're super fun to watch and revisit. The Unholy. This movie is not one of my favorite movies, but this was one of the only collection boutique labels I was able to start from number 1, so I will buy every single one. I know it's kind of pathetic, but I was not a huge fan of this movie after watching it, but gotta have it in the collection. Next up, the Warlock 3 film set. I love these movies. These are so much fun. If you haven't seen the Warlock films, definitely check them out. Slaughter High. This is kind of a revenge film about this nerd who takes revenge on a bunch of kids that messed with them in high school. It's a lot of fun. I love Slaughter High. This was actually back in the day before Netflix was mainly a streaming service. This was the first mail-in disc I ever got from Netflix when I was like, what is Netflix? What the hell is that? This was the first movie I ever had sent to my house. That was the first time I ever saw it. Next up, Gothic, super fun movie. Class of 1999, love it. What was the original? Class of 1984, I think. This is the sequel to that movie. Beyond Reanimator, the third in the series, probably the weakest in the series, but still great movie. It's a lot of fun. You have Jeffrey Combs. You can't beat Jeffrey Combs in a movie. Dagon. Great movie. Transfer looks a little weird in this. That looks a little smoothed over, but an H.P. Lovecraft story. Great movie. Maximum Overdrive, the infamous Stephen King directorial debut. This movie's pretty bad, but it's still a lot of fun. Gotta have it in the series. The recently released David Cronenberg's Shivers, which I have actually yet to watch yet. I need to watch this still. This is debatable as a horror movie. It's a kid's horror movie for sure, but the classic Little Monsters. New stack. Woo! Next up, the Toxic Avenger from 88 Films. I have all 4 of these. I don't know if they're in different stacks. The way I grabbed the stacks, I probably separated them. I consider these horror movies. What the hell else are you going to consider them? They're so violent and graphic and fucked up. They're basically comedies, but they're still, in my opinion, horror. I love old Troma films. Obviously, they're hit or miss. They're not all masterpieces, but I love the Toxic Avenger. Alien Covenant. I'm a big fan of Alien Covenant. I got the Steelbook here. I've seen it. I've yet to open the Steelbook, but I loved Alien Covenant. I thought it was great. I love Ridley Scott, and the Alien movies are so amazing. I also have the... is this a Steel... Oh, yeah. I also got the Digibook. In that, the limited edition Digibook. I think this was a Target exclusive of Alien Covenant. Then I have the Aliens box set here. Aliens 2, of course, is amazing. James Cameron did a fantastic job with Aliens, and again, I consider those horror movies. It's a monster movie. Next up, the Nightmare on Elm Street collection. I am really hoping we get an edition like we're getting with Friday the 13th from Scream Factory. This needs a better treatment than this fucking swing case bullshit that... oh, I just bent the fuck out of that. Who cares? This edition sucks. We need a better... This series deserves more than this, okay? Come on, man. Next up, a Vinegar Syndrome title. Best slipcovers in the game. Flesh-Eating Mothers. This is another one I picked up from the Vinegar Syndrome halfway to Black Friday sale. Blind Buy. I haven't watched it yet. I still need to watch it. The Arrow release of The Woman. This was the original release that also came with The Offspring. These movies are insane. It's now a trilogy with the recently released Darlin, which Pollyanna McIntosh actually wrote and directed. But these movies, it's about a feral woman a family who lives, she lives in the woods. Like, she's basically grown up in the woods. She doesn't speak English. She lives off rats and shit like that. And she's actually captured and brought home by this guy who brings it home to his family, chains her up in the basement and tries to domesticate her. I'll just say it doesn't end well, but this movie is insane. What's the director's name? Oh, I'm forgetting. Lucky McKee. He's sick. He did the movie May. I don't know if you've ever saw May, about the girl who wants to make her own friend. May is phenomenal. If you haven't seen May from Lucky McKee, oh my God, watch May. It's insane. Next up, Luther the Geek, super micro-budget Vinegar Syndrome release, another revenge film. This movie, it starts off really well, kind of fizzles out towards the last 20-30 minutes, but it's a great movie. Well, I wouldn't say great, it's good. Next up, Scream Factory's release of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, obviously a complete departure from the first movie, but I absolutely love this movie. Dog will hunt!
Settle down, baby.
Bill Moseley is classic in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Scream Factory's release of Silver Bullet. Rest in peace, Corey Haim, dude. Too bad, man. House on Haunted Hill with the slipcover. I always gotta have the slipcover with Scream Factory releases, man. I love. Although I don't enjoy. I'm not. You know what? I'm not gonna complain about their art anymore. Some people really like their art. Somebody worked really hard creating the artwork for it. I just don't care for some of their artwork. I know a lot of people do, and that's okay. Return of the Living Dead Part 2, one of my all-time, probably in my top 20 for sure, but it might even crack my top 10 horror movies of all time. I mean, what can you say? Return of the Living Dead 2 is amazing. Next up, Tokyo Gore Police. Watch this movie. This will be one of the most batshit movies you will ever see as a horror fan. Watch this movie, Tokyo Gore Police. It's insane. I've never seen anything like it, and It's batshit crazy and it'll give you nightmares. Collector's edition of Candyman. Hopefully we'll get the Jordan Peele's produced remake or reboot of Candyman soon. It was pushed back, but love it. Bordello of Blood, Tales from the Crypt, starring Dennis Miller of all people, and Corey Feldman makes an appearance. Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, I love this one too. Billy Zane classic. John Carpenter's Thing, one of the million, gajillion, billion releases of The Thing. Since this release, I'm sure 4 more editions of this have been announced. Child's Play, love it. Collector's edition of The Blob, Scream Factory, bang. Species, classic. She's so hot in this movie, Natasha Henstridge. Creepers 2, we won't talk about the director, but we love the movie, right? Return of the Living Dead, love the movie. The original Return of the Living Dead. Yeah, they kind of pulled an Evil Dead 2 with that one, with the Return of the Living Dead 2 and almost remade the first one. Troll Hunter, if you haven't seen Troll Hunter, do yourself a favor and watch this movie. It is amazing. It's a kind of self-explanatory. They hunt trolls, but the trolls are like 19 million stories high. It's phenomenal. Such a fun movie. For how weird the premise is, the effects are really grounded. They're really well... this movie is incredibly well made. Definitely watch Troll Hunter. Citizen Toxic Avenger Part 3. Oh, whoops. Okay, this is number 3. Toxic Avenger 2. And Toxic Avenger Part 4. These are all from 88 Films. Next up... Killer Clowns from Outer Space from Arrow Video with a really cool slipcover. We got The Guyver. Who put this one out? Is this one? Oh yeah, this is Arrow Video 2. The Guyver. I love this movie. Screaming Mad George. The special effects in this one are amazing. Street Trash. This is the neon, just like crazy, face-melting, insane horror movie where there's a batch of this stuff called Viper and they start selling it to all the homeless people and then they start melting into fluorescent goo. It's great. Next up, Apartment 212. I actually haven't seen this. It stars Kyle Gass. I picked this up from the Dollar Tree for $1. So if any of you guys have seen this, let me know. Up Dolly Dearest from Vinegar Syndrome. Really cool slipcover. This was yet another one I picked up from the Halfway to Black Friday sale. It's been years since I've seen this one, but I remember enjoying it pretty a lot. Troma's Poultrygeist. Other than Toxic Avenger, I think this might be his masterpiece. I love Poultrygeist. It's about a fast food restaurant that was built over an Indian burial ground. So it's kind of it's a zombie type movie, but it's batshit crazy. The gore is amazing. It's a disgusting movie. I love it. Yoga Hosers. It's not my favorite Kevin Smith movie, but I definitely love Kevin Smith. I gotta own all of his movies, so I got that one. The Scream Factory release of Drag Me to Hell. Scream Factory Sleepaway Camp 3. Sleepaway Camp 2. Sleepaway Camp, the original. I love those movies. I imagine those will be getting some kind of 4K restoration soon. The original Jeepers Creepers. Bubba Hotep. Scream Factory. Scream Factory just guarantees it's a horror movie, right? It's in the Scream Factory line. Firestarter. Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. I love this movie. It's batshit crazy and weird. Matthew McConaughey, Renee Zellweger. Matthew McConaughey in sort of like a Nick Cage-esque like batshit performance. Tales from the Hood. Recently we just got Tales from the Hood 3, but this is the original. Slither. Love this movie. Before James Gunn was doing Marvel movies, he was doing horror movies. Definitely check out this. And he did a movie called Super, which is also really batshit crazy. Check out Super if you haven't seen that. Night of the Creeps. Trick or Treat. Love this movie. Oh, my background shut off. That's the Gulag from Shudder that I'm playing in the background, by the way. Trick or Treat. Classic. And Army of Darkness, which was also, they just announced the 4K release of that coming next year. I got the Steelbook here. Love it. That's a Scream Factory release. Time for a new stack. Okay, next up, and I actually forgot, I have 2 copies of Dolly Dearest, so I will be doing a giveaway for this Vinegar Syndrome slipcover copy of Dolly Dearest. So definitely keep your eye out for that. I have an unopened copy and a copy. So yeah, well, I'll be giving one of these copies away with the slipcover. So Dolly Dearest is going to be one of your guys'. Subscribe so you'll know what video that I'll be giving that away on. Alright, so I guess I will be doing I have 2 copies of Dolly Dearest I just discovered. So make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, guys, because later in the month I will be doing a giveaway for Dolly Dearest, the Vinegar Syndrome with slipcover edition. So watch out for that. Next up, Idle Hands, Scream Factory. Love it. April Fool's Day, Scream Factory. Bloodbath. This was on a Ronin Flicks sale. I got this thing for like $10. It was actually a blind buy with the collector's edition from Arrow, so I had to get it. Let me know what you guys think of this one. I've yet to see it. Next up, the Grindhouse, Planet Terror and Death Proof Steelbook. Love it. I love that movie. Death Proof is one of my all-time favorite Tarantino movies. He knocked it out of the park with that one. Cutting Class, the Vinegar Syndrome slipcover edition. Rosemary's Baby, Criterion Collection. David Lynch's Eraserhead, Criterion. Criterion release of Scanners from Cronenberg. Next up, the double pack Best Buy exclusive from Wolf Cop. I've only seen the first Wolf Cop movie. I haven't seen the second one. I heard it's great. These are really goofy, fun comedy horror werewolf movies. I highly recommend these. They're a lot of fun. Victor Crowley, the one of the sequels in the Hatchet series. This movie's great. It's super low budget. Kane Hodder plays Hatchet in this. Felissa Rose is in this. It's super gory, pretty funny entry in the Hatchet series. Split from Shamalama Ding Dong.
Shamalama Ding Dong.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. In my opinion, this is one of the best remakes of all time. I fucking love this movie. So good. The Jorg Buttergeit's Sex Murder Art, including Necromantic, Der Todsking, Necromantic 2, and Scram. These are all insane movies. These are kind of fall in the extreme horror art house. They're not for everybody. Scram is a really interesting one. Summer of Blood. This is a movie that I don't hear anybody talk about, but it's a super quirky vampire movie. This movie is so much fun. It's like a mumblecore vampire movie. It's fantastic. I love this movie. This loser guy who kind of is a real schlubby guy, kind of a dick to everybody around him. It's a vampire movie. I don't want to give anything away. Dr. Giggles, this lenticular uncut version of Dr. Giggles. This is a German release. Double feature of Millennium and Rotor. What does Rotor stand for? Robotic Officer Tactical Operation Research. It's ridiculous. I actually heard about this from the gals on Witchfinger Horror Podcast. Yasmina talked big about this movie, so I ended up picking up. It's a lot of fun. Next up, Carcinoma. This is one I picked up. Diabolic DVD was pushing this one. Super experimental. I'm going to be honest, this is one of those movies you have to really be in the right mood for. When I popped this in, I wasn't right in the right mindset for it. It's super experimental and weird. Gutterballs with the Maniac spoof cover. Super fun movie. I absolutely love Gutterballs. Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. It's kind of one of those love it or hate it movies. I dig it. Viggo Mortensen's in it. This was a Dollar Tree pickup. The Fright Night 2 remake version of it. So this is the modern Fright Night 2. This came out in 2013. This is a blind buy. I haven't seen it. I've actually heard decent things about this movie, though. Pet Sematary 2, the Edward Furlong classic. I fucking love Pet Sematary 2. I've rewatched it infinitely more than I watched the original. I absolutely love Pet Sematary 2. The Craft from Scream Factory, classic. What can you say about Craft that hasn't already been said? Except that the remake is kind of, I don't know what to think about that one. Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula in this kind of weird glass book. It looks cool and the concept is cool, but this thing is like dog shit, man. This release sucks. The disc slides out. The binder is like becoming unglued from this glass thing. I don't know. I need to pick up the 4K version of this. This edition, it looks cool, but it sucks. Spring, this movie is So awesome. I love this movie. This was actually a Draft House release about this guy who life is kind of going to shit in the States, so he goes to Europe and ends up meeting this girl who kind of has a mysterious past. It kind of takes a horror twist. This movie is like a beautiful film. If you haven't seen it, this is a horror movie you could actually watch kind of with your girlfriend or significant other, because it's got some romance aspects to it. I highly recommend Spring. It's super unique. I still have this unopened Nightmare DVD set, bonus DVD CD-ROM, Nightmare Screensaver DVD-ROM. That shows you how old this thing is. I love buying these unopened things that were like sitting in a warehouse for 20 years and just knowing that this has been around for so long. At one point, this is probably like $100 or something, and now they're all over. But all 7 films plus a bonus DVD, widescreen versions of the films, 3D, Freddy's Dead in 3D with 3D glasses. Jump to a Nightmare scene navigation. Just being able to go to a different scene in the movie was a special feature. Feature-length commentaries, collector's booklet, and original mind-blowing animated menu screens. All 7 screenplays on the DVD-ROM, which is actually kind of cool. Watch the scene while reading the script. That actually is kind of cool. 8 original Dream World trivia games in the DVD-ROM. So that's the 7-film, 8-disc set. Gotta go grab another stack. This video is gonna end up being 2 hours long. Jesus. Next up, the Tales from the Crypt box set. Now, I bought this off eBay, and after doing some research, it was kind of a toss-up. Like, I knew there was a possibility of it being bootleg, but the more I looked into it, it looks like I got a bootleg copy, but it's an incredibly well-made boot, and it looks great. The menus are animated. Like, it definitely could pass as real. I mean, for sure. The transfers, I heard on the actual one and the original ones, the transfers aren't that great anyway. So, you know, I'm glad I have them all. So that's cool. The Midsummer A24 Shop exclusive. This edition of this movie is just phenomenal. It's so cool. If you haven't seen this, it comes with this super sturdy hardbound thing, and it has this book with all kinds of cool artwork from the movie. It's just one of the coolest editions of a movie I've ever seen. I have a feeling that more of these kind of releases from A24 will come out. We'll probably get one for The Lighthouse and Hereditary, all those big titles, but such a beautiful release. Midsummer is one of my favorite movies of all time. I love Midsummer, man. I just think it's a beautiful and genius movie. I know a lot of people have issues with Ari Aster or think that it's a ripoff of Wicker Man. In my opinion, it's not. They're definitely similar. But I have the original US Blu-ray release of Midsummer. I have the German release of Midsummer in this really cool digibook, which is awesome. They're making fun of Trump in their artwork in there. The German version, and then I also have the 4K uncut Italian version with slipcover. And I actually did unboxings of all 3 of those. I did an unboxing of all those editions. You can check back in my past videos. I did an unboxing of all those. Next up, one of the VHS slipcover editions of When a Stranger Calls. This is the end. I went back and forth on this one, and ultimately, I think it's a horror movie, right? What do you guys think? I think it's a horror movie, in my opinion. Up, Cabin Fever, Patient Zero. Now, my buddy Matt, I don't know if he's watching this or not, but he forced me to watch this again. I watched this one time with him. We watched it. I have a buddy of mine who I watch all my horror with. He's like the only person that watches horror with me. But I hated this the first time I watched it. I thought it was dog shit. It stars Sean Astin. Upon second viewing, this movie is not bad. And it's actually gory as fuck. Like, it goes for it with the gore. It's not overall a fantastic movie, but you know the scene in Cabin Fever where she's shaving her legs, or the scene when he, like, fingers her? They top that as far as gross out gore with this one. I recommend watching this. Maybe not be purchase worthy, but it's definitely worth a watch. And same thing happened when I watched the remake of Cabin Fever. I hated it the first time, and I watched it again. It's not great, but they went for it with the gore. Next up, Ichi the Killer, which, confession, I've not seen. This is still in the packaging. It was a really good deal. It was like $10 at Best Buy, so I bought it. My battery died on that one, so yeah. Ichi the Killer, super cool. Next up.
I love movies. Gosh, I love movies. I love watching them, and I love making them.
Hey.
Boy, you want to give me one good reason why you would steal a Snickers bar.
The nougat?